The enterprises, they claim they want agility, yet their hiring cycle takes 60 to 90 days.
Early 90s, when the whole IT sector started, if you look at those 3 decades, the growth has been pretty much linear. For any organization, growth meaning that you have more and more people. Unfortunately, time changes. All the traditional practice of recruitment today, which prevails in the enterprises all across.
Of course, they do hire, but whenever there is any client project which gets halted,
To look at post-corona world, a lot of work got shifted to hybrid model. Boundaries of the work got blurred. Suddenly, we all became part of the global workforce. These human resources have become suddenly 2x, 3x costlier.
talk about an AI-powered tech hiring platform that deploy the talent in 2 or 3 days.
People are now considering platforms that they don't have to deal with individual vendors. AI advent and adoption, etc., has a huge pressure on the recruitment industry.
How has your perspective on risk and digital transformation changed now?
As an entrepreneur, you have no other way but to bounce back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. I am your host Kuldeep Singh. Today we are excited to have Mr. Daya Prakash with us. He's the founder of TalentOnLease and ex-CIO of LG India. Daya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kuldeep, for having me here. Looking forward to our conversation. Thank you so much.
So, Daya, before we start our conversation, could you share about your industrial experience and the journey so far?
Sure. I started my career way back in 1994 in IT industry as a programmer, and I served IT service industry for good 6 years until 2000. And between 2000 2013, I happened to work in a corporate, large corporate, and played some important roles in my journey there. Thereafter, back in 2013, I decided to start something on my own, which was a consulting initiative of mine. Extending CIO on-demand consulting services, which I run for good 6 years after that. And so initial 6 years in the IT service industry is then about 12 plus years in the corporates and 6 years of journey in the consulting side. Uh, kind of, made me think if there is anything better that I can do in terms of creating value for at large. And that's when I kind of had discussion with few of my friends, and two of them are my co-founders now, and we started this journey just before Corona of Talent on Lease. So this is a brief journey about me as an individual. But let me also give you a quick context to Talent on Lease. Also, Talent on Lease is a platform that basically provides IT outsourcing and IT resourcing solution to the corporates, the large enterprises, small mid enterprises to startups. We basically are a platform because we envisage this platform that we wanted to solve this problem of shortage of quality tech talent, and that's how we created Talent on Lease. Uh, and we have on our platform obviously two sides, a demand side and a supply side, with which we closely work. But we as a platform take complete ownership of quality as well as the compliance, risk governance. So it's kind of trust based and authentic platform that we're trying to build for last 5 years now, and in a journey to kind of create more impact, way more impact than we would have created in last 5 years.
Now, you do have a vast industry experience, and I think it is not only the IT you have looked across, and that's where I would like to start more with the problem statement, because you have also served as the CIO at the LG India and few years on CIO on demand. But let's be honest, even the enterprises, they claim they want agility, yet their hiring cycle takes 60 to 90 days. Is traditional corporate recruitment fundamentally broken, or was it just built for a completely different era and now it has changed?
Yeah, so I think I would like to answer it this way that uh, why do we put a lot of emphasis on, unlearning and relearning, right? And this is precisely the same problem, same challenge that we have been talking about. All the traditional practice of recruitment today, which prevails in the enterprises all across, are basically evolution from, let's say, early 90s, when the whole IT sector started to kind of, make some strides and started to grow. And, it was all the time. If you look at 90s, look at 2000, early 2000 and 2010 even, if you look at those 3 decades, the growth has been pretty much linear, right? It was put in more people for any organization growth, meaning that you have more and more people, and that's where we are kind of attuned to, in terms of thinking growth as growth in headcount. And that's the whole premise of this, the traditional practice that we follow in hiring, right? Because everybody is attuned to that, and think that that's the way the organizations grow, which unfortunately, time changes, right? And it also reminds me at the same time the very famous quote by late Ratan Tata, when he said that a straight line in ECG is also not good. So your assumption of having the organization growth, is directly dependent on, or proportionate to the growth in the headcounts. That is the mindset which is creating problem today, Kuldeep, and that's precisely the issue and the reason that we are having this situation, that the 60 to 90 days hiring cycle, because current times, especially the times post Corona, has absolutely changed, and it is a time which basically, demands not ownership to the talent, but access to the talent, right? So the whole lot of dynamics, industry dynamics have changed, but we are yet to keep up with that, change in pace of the industry or market dynamics, and these are, in my mind, uh, you know the practices of yesteryears which are not relevant today.
Yeah. No, you are right. And I think it is about, the flexibility. And as you said, the flat line is no more true. There is like, ups and down. And that's where we need to see, the elasticity of the talent. How do we have the resources now, specifically, for example, in the cloud? And also it is following, the same philosophy. But tell me one more thing, which is specifically true about the IT services company. Of course, they do hire, but whenever there is any client project which gets halt, or I mean, there are like always changes there, it becomes very hard problem for them to manage, right? But how do you convince such firm to monetize their bench externally without panicking about the client confidentiality?
Right. So, Kuldeep, again, as I said, that the market is evolving constantly, continuously, and it's a different market that we operate post-corona, versus what we operated in terms of pre-corona. And especially with regards to the IT service company, if you look at, and if you look at the major concerns any IT service company would have, from a cost point of view, there were two clear, heads. Concerning cost, for any IT service company. One was the infrastructure cost, the other was the human resource cost. If you look at post-corona world, a lot of work got shifted to hybrid model, a lot of work got shifted to remote work, which basically brought down the infrastructure cost for these IT service companies substantially. But at the same time, since the work model changed, the boundaries of the work got blurred. Suddenly we all became part of the global workforce from a workforce which is pretty much local. So that also changed a lot. And with that, what has happened is that there is a cost that suddenly got increased on a human resource side, because they were no more limited to serving a particular geography, but they were getting directly hired by the global companies, and their paying capacities versus paying capacity or the pace that they used to command in Indian market was completely different. So some of them or a lot of them got very lucky in terms of getting that kind of an exposure. So this also kind of created a big challenge for IT service companies, saying that the all I'm operating at is the human resources, right? What I'm delivering services is through those human resources, and these human resources have become suddenly 2x, 3x costlier than what it used to be. So the problem of having these, and look at the top line, look at the order value that suddenly got stagnant. If people didn't get, let's say, increase in the order value, it got stagnant. But a lot of cases where people started asking for deep discounts in terms of clients of these IT service companies. So the revenue shrunk or got stagnated, and the human resource cost got increased. So there were very little margins on which they are operating or they were operating. And this actually puts back a pressure on IT service companies. In order to kind of survive and thrive, they have to deal with this pressure. And think of it that with the margins today, if there is a resource or a human resource that this company have is on bench for 1 month, it basically eats up the entire profit that you would have earned on this particular resource through the year. And if it spills to the second month, then obviously you are paying this resource out of your own pocket, right? So this is like one of the biggest concern for IT service companies today, especially the small and mid-sized IT service company today. And that's where platform like Talent on Lease plays a very vital role, where they say, as platform, we say all these IT service companies founders that whatever bench that you have, you give us the visibility of the bench so that we can proactively find you work so that you don't have a bench at all, right? So there are a lot of partners that we have today who basically give us the access to their bench, wherein we are proactively able to find newer projects for them. So the bench situation doesn't arise at all, but there are many partners today who are trying to understand this concept and appreciate this concept, where they say that we will provide you bench, but we will provide you on demand, which means you share the demand with us and we will provide you our bench resources. And I'm telling them all this time is that if you are proactive, you can even manage. So we are in the beginning of August now, and let's say if I have a visibility as an IT service company founder that some of my projects getting closed by end of this month, right, or maybe mid of next month. And if I can have that visibility shared on the platform Talent on Lease, by the time they get free from the project, Talent on Lease has found a new project for you already, right? So the bench situation never arises in some sense. So that's how Talent on Lease has been able to help these companies either avoid a bench situation or immediately get bench resources deployed so that they don't end up making losses in their organization.
Yeah. No, you are right, and that's like a very innovative way to find out like where is the supply coming for supply, and where is the availability available. Because most of the time, what we see is people who are looking for the work, they are not able to find the people, and the people then they are not able to find in the right match with the work. But this also remind me of another situation, and I know like most of the time these recruitment agencies claim that, hey, for example, I'm just taking an example of an fintech, they require like, let's say, 200 people in next 6 months. And once we say, hey, oh, yes, then the recruitment agency says, yes, we will do it. But then we have slowly seen like they fail on such demands. Do you know why such things are happening in actual?
Sure, Kuldeep, sure. And that brings me to the fundamentals of Talent Only being the platform, because we spent about a year in thinking how are we going to solve this problem, because I told you that the problem that we wanted to solve was shortage of quality tech talent. But how do we solve it? There were absolutely two traditional paths that we could follow. One you become another IT service company or become maybe staffing recruitment company and contributed to to our level best to this particular problem and address this problem to some extent. But all throughout in our mind there is only one thing that was going, which is basically that you talk about any organization, you talk about the tier 1 companies, you talk about tier 2, 3, 4, be it any size of company, all of them are currently you know uh, driven by the number of people they have, number of resources they have, right? So let's say you took this very classical example of a fintech needing 200 people, let's say, and it today, trust me, the kind of margins that we are operating at as an IT industry, it's difficult for anybody, including the tier 1 companies, to keep a bench of 200 people and say that, hey, Kuldeep, you need 200 people, we have them ready today, we can give it to you, right? So that is never going to happen. And to the extent that it is happening today, it's not going to happen tomorrow, because the again, as I said, the margins are shrinking, the costs are increasing, and you are now in position to kind of manage a good bench in house. So what you need to do as an organization is to have a collaborative way. Come to platforms like maybe TalentOnLease, and there could be other platforms. But I'll talk about TalentOnLease. But what TalentOnLease does is basically, if you're looking at a 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, all we need to have is more and more qualified partners, wherein we can have pre-vetted, pre-assessed, partners, and the resource ecosystem from where we can say that, okay, hey, you need 200 people. There is this company which has got 10 people bench. There is this company which has got 20 people bench, 30 people bench, stuff like that. And then you basically collaborate with all these companies who are having the bench, and present it to the client, in this case the fintech, and then say that you need 200 people, we've got in access to, let's say, 200 or 400 people in our ecosystem. Here they are. You may want to follow your selection process and figure out who are the top 200 people that you want to consume at against this demand of yours. So that's the ability you can only think of from or a platform. But I can promise you this, and I can challenge this, that this is not possible by any one single organization, right?
Yeah. No, you are right, and I think what you said is the ground truth. Like, even if we ask out from the availability side, even if like they will not have them ready for the 200, and even if like we look for the work also will not be available. So you need to pick up and choose, and that's where I think this platform is useful. So now, like in the 2026, we are into the age of AI, right? And any tech platform, hiring platform we see, they will have the AI word, right? Which means, hey, yes, I'm providing it via the AI. But when you specifically talk about an AI powered tech hiring platform that deploy the talent in 2 or 3 days, how do you ensure that the quality of the people or the person we are processing is really good behind the scene?
Sure. So, Kuldeep, firstly, I would say that everybody is overusing word AI today, and trust me, it's a honest statement actually, because what we need today in today's uh, scenario is more of trust than anything else. What is not being delivered today by the AI so effectively, in majority of the cases, is the trust factor, the explainability factor, right? So AI is good when it comes to, let's say, further automation of your processes that you would have in your organization, and kind of bring you in element of efficiencies, productivity, etc., etc. But if you question that, if your decision is right or wrong, there is no single person who can take ownership and accountability on this. And that's where I think all the AI journeys today do not meet the expectation, right? They are good to start with as a pilot project, and experiment, bring in an element of productivity, efficiency. But in terms of trust, trustability on the decision made by it, right? It's very, very difficult. So what we say is that, as talent on lease, we have been able to kind of give our, clients solution within 48 to 72 hours, is not because of our entire dependence on AI, but the efficiencies that we have built in through intervention of AI. And then on top of it, a lot of human intervention, right? So with the human intervention, we are able to vet these resources. So, these resources are coming from which all partners, what has been our experience of working with these partners in the past, who are the partners who have been able to deliver exceptionally well, who are the partners who have been able to deliver just what was promised, who are the partners who failed to deliver. So we have the entire history and the experience with us, wherein we can make some good judgments about the credibility of that partner. And that's the first leg. The second leg is that the resource in question, right? What is the team that we are talking about? What is that pod that we are talking about? Which all people? Do we have any prior experience of working with these people? And what has been their delivery track record? What has been their feedback from our customers where we engage these resources? And do we have some recommendations, references, etc., etc.? So that's the kind of intelligence that we put together before we kind of propose any resource to our customer or our client. It's a combination of, I would say, AI and HI, because I don't trust in AI taking over the whole the judgment process. It's about more of augmentation, where you have humans having the experiences of these, I would say, business associations, and through those associations, what are the meaningful learning, what are the the learning where we needed improvement, etc. Keeping all these in mind and combining this power of AI and HI, human intelligence, give our customer the most trusted solution, where we don't say that, hey, you need these many people and we will give you people after people, right? Just like a typical agency where we say that, you want to hire 10, 20, let us keep flooding you with maybe more and more profiles. And it's basically your headache to figure out who you find suitable. Um, but we will not get tired in providing you profiles one after another, right? So that's not the intent here. Intent is, we understand what kind of people you need. You need those 10 people, 20 people. We understand from you. We become basically your extended team through that duration, where you are able to kind of have this 20 people team put together till the time we basically become your extended team, post which obviously you are going to manage your work, etc., etc. But we are going to be with you in terms of managing the performance through this entire association, and making sure that you get the desired support that you wish from us.
No, you are right. And, the pattern is exactly, the same. You get, one job opening and then there are like 100 resumes. So now there is like, two person spends, the entire month to going through those and scheduling the interview and all. And I think what you said is right, that you do have the previous context, right? So that's where you can do more kind of, the predictions are right, whether this partner is going to serve. And then it comes to the person, whether the person has implemented certain thing in the past in reality, can he replicate or maybe he can't. And that's where you define, and then it's ultimately, the decision which the person who is hiring can make. Also, I see two more trends which are happening, because now even the companies are, whether they are even hiring it for like a contract for a 1 year or two year, they want to de-riskify it. And when they want to de-riskify, how they want it to do is, they are asking the people to joining for a 2 weeks or 1 week trial, so that they are fully confident, and then they can go ahead with like a year or multi-year contract. How do you see, what are the primary failure point there happen, and how do you ensure that the short-term trial becomes a long-term partnership for them?
Absolutely, Kuldeep. And this is very, very the point, right? On one hand, platform like us as TalentOnLease keep saying that we bring in a lot of trust and authenticity, but to customer, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't translate in pure success or maybe higher percentage of success, right? And how that higher percentage of success would come is simply if, let's say, any of our client was hiring not from TalentOnLease but from any other source, and if they had different level of experience, it was understandable. But when they hire through TalentOnLease, what is it that gives them the confidence that our decision is going to be first time right? I mean, how do you get that kind of confidence? And that's not possible without the experience and without the conviction of the other side, which is platform TalentOnLease, right? So when a client comes to us and says that we want to hire resources, and there are resources that we feel that we have worked with them in the past, and we had a very good experience with these resources, from their ability to deliver to kind of attitude, etc. And we are super confident there. What we tell our customer, go back and tell our customer that you please trust us and you don't have to follow your selection process. So what we are doing is basically eliminating the need for them to kind of follow their selection process, and in the process, end up wasting 1 or 2 weeks. So we save that 1 or 2 weeks for them, and we say that here are the people that we are super confident, having understood your requirement fully, that they are we are confident on these people that they are going to deliver, and we kind of extend them on a trial basis with 1 or 2 weeks. We have done this a lot with a lot of our customers, and I think ratio of return would be somewhere around maybe 5 to 10% and not more, right? So if we had given, let's say, maybe 10 resources to a client, or maybe 20 resources to a client, um, for this kind of a trial period, um, we would have got maybe one, at the best two, maybe not more than that resource given back to us saying that they did not match our expectation, right? And that happens actually because we are talking about human beings, and we're not talking about, and the human beings also, we also have this kind of an experience where we have this 1 year contract, um, and towards the end of the contract, suddenly the customer says that I see a dip in the level of enthusiasm and participation from this particular resource. And we, as I said, that constantly be a part of performance management with the client, figure it out that what could be the impacting factors and how do we resolve them. So all that happens. But coming back to your question of trial period, this is the trend that is going to increase on a on a day by day basis, because that's where companies are coming to you, clients are coming to you. Why would client come to TalentOnLease and say that you are a platform and I want to hire from you? Because they want to make sure that TalentOnLease has enough data points for them to kind of give them that kind of a solution that they don't have to waste time here and there, but give solutions straight away, right? So I think that's one of the biggest reasons that people are now considering platforms, that they don't have to deal with individual vendors or partners or their resources without having a lot of information or data points about them, about their delivery capabilities or performance.
No, you are right, and I think that data point is the important, right? Because what in the end, what they wanted to is they wanted to hire the right people, and they just wanted to make sure that they are not getting into a longer contract where this person is not able to contribute to the goal what they are setting up for that project. All right. So now we'll move to a bit different on the your CIO and the founder. I know you have transitioned also, from the LG, which is like one of the biggest enterprise which sells, the product to the household as well as to the enterprises. And by looking at your current journey, how has your perspective on risk and digital transformation changed now compared to maybe like, before joining, the LG and all?
Yeah, so Kuldeep, you're very right. When you work in corporate, basically you have a a safety net in place, right? So whatever decision you make, end of the day, if you build that kind of a trust in the organization, that the experimentation that you're going to do are all, with the intent of delivering back to organization, right? Which I could establish that kind of a rapport, right? Because my journey started with LG when it was 300 million US dollar, and when I moved out, it was about 3.5 billion. So that's the kind of transformation that we had seen, transition that we had seen, huge transition. So every bet that we made, and this is not that I would have done it all by myself, but the kind of support that I would have gotten from the top management back there, saying that you do experiment, and you make mistakes, but make sure that you learn from it, right? So I it reminds me of a statement from my MD, Mr. KR Kim, who used to say that if you're not making a mistake, you're not a human being, and if you're repeating a mistake, then also you're not a human being. So that's the kind of philosophy that he had. So he always wanted us to kind of move fast, and experiment and learn from those experiments, be a better person, improve your decisions next time and deliver. And that's the reason that we could see in about 10-12 years that kind of transformation, the transition, from what 300 million to 3.5 billion US dollar journey. But things are different when you take an entrepreneur plunge. Things are very, very different. Every mistake that you commit is a cost, right? And that cost is determined by how much time does it take you to keep you down, and be back in the game again. Because you have to bounce back. As an entrepreneur, you have no other way but to bounce back, right? And everyday basis. So today I would be, it's been. So you just reminded this entrepreneurial journey. So 2013 I started. 2027 we are. 26 we are, and this is about 13 years gone by, and not today. Even today, I can say that I've learned the tricks of the trade, right? And every day there is a new lesson, there is a new challenge, there is new punch, and you have to face it all and bounce back, as I said. So I think entrepreneurship. I was meeting a friend of mine recently, about 2-3 months back, and I still remember the point he made. And he said that good. And we were talking about all the hard times this industry is going through, particularly because of this the geopolitical issues, and then the war, and then the AI advent and adoption, etc., etc. So there's a huge pressure on the recruitment industry per se, or IT outsourcing per se. And we were talking about it, the difficult times, and he said that the one good thing there is that becoming an entrepreneur has taught us that be it any situation, we will still be able to survive. We will still be able to live through it, right? So if we were not, if we had not taken this kind of a plan, I think it would have been difficult. A lot of people on the other side who kind of talk to me and say that I want to do this and I want to take a plunge, but they are actually kind of scared of moving out of that safety net. So once you've taken that plunge, I think the time teaches you a lot, your journey teaches you a lot, and it makes you a lot better individual than what you would be with the safety nets, I would say.
No, you are absolutely correct, and I think these bigger companies, of course, they provide the layers, which sometimes uh, uh, frustrate the people into the decision making. But this is to ensure, right, there is no decision which can probably go wrong and impact the entire company. And on the other hand side, you are right, because this is something which you wanted it to build. So you might not be contributing to the same revenue or to the same compared to these big one, but whatever you are contributing is you are impacting the life, right? So you are changing the actual user behavior, because that was not available in the industry. You came up with the problem statement and you built the solution, and now you scaled it. That also increases a lot more confidence in how to handle the latest thing. For example, might be if would have been into the same journey and all, okay, there is like no more learning is happening the same, type of schedule. But I think now with your learning and working with so many people, so many companies, and the partner, the thought process had changed how to be risk aware, but how to even take those risks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Enriching, I would say.
Sure. So those were the all questions which were in my mind. Anything else you would like to share before we close?
I think this has been a wonderful experience, Kuldeep. Thank you so much for bringing out this conversation and architecting this whole conversation with those thoughtful questions that you asked. Taken me back to my old working days, to start of career, to my experience till now. And I think if I look at these two words today, when I started my career versus where we are today, it's a completely different world. And it has been very interesting journey, going over it as journey through this interaction. So all thanks to you, Kuldeep. Thank you so much for making my Saturday.
Oh, Daya, and it has been a wonderful experience for me as well. I was able to grab, why, the wide industry experience still matters, and why you think, right, hey, this problem was a special problem to solve. How did you learned about the idea, and how you are even solving it today. So this is a very special sort of the talent discussion which we usually don't have with the other conversation, because either it's the demand and supply, but hey, how you have built a platform which actually helps, and how you have think through the entire problem statement.
It's just a small effort, Kuldeep, from our side. I don't know how much we are going to make a difference to the world, but yeah, the intent is that as much as the difference that we could make, I think we are pretty satisfied with that. Actually, thank you so much, Kuldeep.
That's it for this episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. Until next time, keep learning and keep innovating. Thank you for watching.